storytelling time. I remember communist Czechoslovakia. My parents both had management positions, but they had to be in the office at my dad at 6, my mom at 7 a.m. So you can imagine for little babies to drag them out of bed in the morning. Like that was not really I can imagine that didn't go easy. They said I was okay. I was okay to get up early, but my brother wasn't. He was always like, they were traumatized by having to pull him out of bed at like 5 to quickly get him dressed and get him to get both of us to how do you say that in English? To nursery, yeah, like the daycare facilities. They were traumatized by having to do it, but they had to, right? Nobody expects them to be people pleasers who would just let us sleep until 7 or 8. Right? They had to do it. As a parent, you need to make those tough calls and tough choices, and sometimes even against your own will, like against your own wish. I bet they wished they wouldn't have to do it, but that was like, hey, that's life. Get over it, right? Kind of. As parents, there will be the situations where we do need to put our authority. It's us making the decisions. But how we make them, that's all that matters. Because this is where we struggle between these two extremes, that none of them is working, that I just described. You cannot let your kids sleep until 8. You will have to get them to school on time so that you get to work on time if you're working outside of home. You cannot do it by yelling and pushing and bribing and threatening, because that's going to backfire and it's going to make it even less pleasant for you. So what is the healthy way how to do it is how you wish your parents might have done it with you. It's by meeting your needs, your core needs. Little psychology break here. What all of us need and want underneath, and I don't care what gender, race, color, religion, age, economic situation you are, how you identify and where you live in, what we all have in common is the need to feel loved unconditionally. And that connects to feeling seen and heard, like you matter. Somebody cares enough to slow down and make you feel heard, like validate your feelings and emotions. And the younger you are, the more you need to feel like, it's okay, I've got you and I love you no matter what. Even if you mess up, even if you make mistakes, even if you're grumpy, I love you no matter what. Isn't that what you would want your partner and your kids to make you feel like? That you matter no matter what, that they love you no matter what, even if they're upset with you. Wouldn't you want to hear that and feel that they love you? That you're free to show up the way you are? That yes, even with your imperfections, there's actually somebody who loves you, even with that? Well, I have news for you. That's exactly what your kids need to feel as well. Logical, right? Like, wow, what a no-brainer. Like, yeah. But this is what a lot of these like old, more conservative, authoritative, I'm getting it wrong with English, those like pushy parenting styles, that's where they got it wrong. Again, not blaming anybody. It was totally valid parenting strategy to just like punish the kids to listen the first time. Otherwise, they would get killed or the entire family would get killed. We are lucky enough to, most of us at least, listening to this podcast, I assume you're not living in a war zone. And if you do, please be safe. And then yes, absolutely, feel free to yell at your kids to make sure that you don't get killed. But most of us don't. We are not living in war zones anymore. And beyond the survival, like pure survival strategy, if you're in survival times when you're literally fighting to physically survive every day, then of course, who could judge you? Like, do whatever you have to do to stay alive, you and your kids. But if there's not like shooting happening around your house, then talking about long-term relationship building with your children beyond just making sure they survive physically, but actually they grow up being healthy, emotionally healthy human beings who have enough self-respect for themselves so then they can show and extend the respect to other people, then this is what it's going to take. Okay. And the good news is that while we are talking about kids now and building relationship with kids, does it apply only to kids? Parenting relationships? Or is it maybe possible to consider that respect and authority is built in exactly the same way in adult relationships as well? Is it also possible that it doesn't help people pleasing, asking 100 times nicely, overgiving just to hope to get something, some approval, validation back, needing to be liked so that you feel you're worthy of the respect? And going to the other extreme, the muscling through it, trying to prove, and I've done it all, right? I'm talking from my own example here. This is exactly how I felt. Especially after I became an expat, 24-year-old little girl from Eastern Europe, like fresh out of school, going on first internships into the West, trying to prove I'm not there just to marry a rich guy and have an easy life for the rest of my life. No. I first had to rebuild my identity, realizing I can't get the respect and build my own place and sense of worth out of people pleasing and feeling inferior, having the imposter syndrome, like who am I to even speak up? Like that didn't take me too far. But then when I've had enough and I became frustrated and I realized I'm actually at least as good as these guys. This is just like the cultural brainwashing. I deserve to be here. I'm working hard. And I proved myself more than enough already. These judgments and cultural stereotypes and like, that's not fair. But when I had enough of the anger of how unfair and unjust that was, then I flipped it all the way to the other extreme. And I was coming across as very aggressive, as very, like thinking I'm better than others. So from somebody who felt inferior, I actually realized after a while, like, that's not my place. I'm doing better than more of these people. They're just judging me because I come from a different country and I have different accent. My English is not perfect. But I have all of these credentials. I have all of these certifications. I have all of the proof and result of my work. That's speaking for myself. I deserve to be treated better. And because they wouldn't treat me better, then I started demanding it by being much more assertive, all the way to being even aggressive, being like too direct. And you can imagine that backfired as well. None of these extremes work. So how do you build the authority without faking it and actually feeling like an imposter and putting up a facade? Or without bullying people into getting what you want and earning the respect by being the alpha, like tough. It's exactly the same thing. It actually starts with you. You knowing your worth. And you actually inviting the authority and respect by knowing what you're worth. Feeling good enough. Not having interactions with other adults because you need any validation, you need anything else. Knowing what you bring in and what you offer. And if they say no, if they don't like it, it's fine. Not taking it personally into the ego, not feeling offended by it.